fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we gonna eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. Covid money, miss you, we eat the your little rat you. Use the youth, the money, waste a must a man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but bigger than a figure you. Take the spit of money, girl, and say that it's not you. On the head, the man above him, look him, I got a bet too much. It in the kitchen, some a fly by like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% raise.
It burn me.
Garbage pile of the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out with beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The already promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, them rap and they down in our river. Member bold money and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the son man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
Or them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't.
Boom! I mean, I say a couple to the flex they represent for Wayne Global TV. There. So I say, you know the code, you know, Wayne Global TV is what fully blessed on 90 days. So I say, yeah man, to the fullest. Yeah man, make sure them log in to Wayne Global TV. So I say, check it out. So I say, one cup of flex. So I say, Wayne Global. When you watch you know, feel my plan up and I try to put them on the pan we head. But man, I live too long, them want Wayne Global fitted. To him juggle so smooth that them want him life for dread. I throw the bank, I like the break, but we ain't all about the bread. We open up in the ears and no listen when we said, cause we lyrics them so smooth like the linen on the bed. Them one with a fall, we live in pan the edge, I must say true, we make this them. We in Global TV, we are 90, and 90. Who Jaja bless, no man can curse. Give it the Range Rover, who drive years. Boom! We in Global TV to the fullest one cup of excellence, see me?
Good evening and welcome. Welcome to those on TikTok. You are seeing me this evening. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to those on the X, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. If you have not had the chance to see an alleged murderer at their victim's funeral, you have just seen it. Has Jamaica broke history today? Could this happen anywhere else in the world where an alleged murderer attended the funeral of their victim, but not just any so-called victim? The wife of the attendee of the funeral and those who were on the murder scene not long after the murder. Is today's show of Melissa Silvera's funeral not an absolute disgrace to our country, but more so to our justice system and the rule of law, and who does it apply to, when it applies, how it does apply? Let me say good evening to those in the chat, those of you all in the chat, good evening. Good evening to my moderators, as always, ever helpful, and I'm grateful for your support. Good evening, Lorna. Good evening, Prof. Gorgeous Lady. Sunshine, good evening, Debbie. Good evening. Good evening, always observing. Good evening, Andrea. Good evening, Natalia. Good evening. Who else is here? Jamaican Foodie. Good evening, BCA. Good evening, Dorothy. Good evening, Vindicator. Good evening, Angela. Good evening, Wendy. Good evening. Who else is here? Sasha, good evening. Good evening, Raymond. Good evening, Bernice. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Elijah. Good evening. Good evening. How are you? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Good evening to those on TikTok. You are seeing me this evening, but I really do not enjoy the TikTok virtual background. But anyway, nevertheless, we are here, and the monkey story continue, because this is really now a monkey story. Could it be, just a wild thinking, could it be, good evening, Rebel with a cause, good evening, could it be that Fitz Bailey and Joel Silvera cut a deal to say, after I attended my wife's funeral, then we can proceed with the case? Because it cannot be, me go talk like my grandmother now, one whole somebody can't dead and nobody not kill her. Good evening, Monica. Good evening. Welcome. One whole somebody can't dead and nobody not kill them. You have to remember the official story. It is important. Good evening, Winston. Good evening and welcome. You have to remember the official story. It is important to keep the official story in mind. Melissa Silvera died in her sleep. Not only that she died in her sleep. The audio is very bad over here. Hold on. Let me unplug this and see. 1 second. Is the audio any better over TikTok now, please? Please let me know. Please let me know if the audio is better now over TikTok. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The official storyline, we must remember, keep remembering the official storyline, because the official storyline is where the mass cover-up start. Who started the cover-up is a major question. Because if Mr. Silvera is not the one who murdered his wife, allegedly, then Mr. Silvera would have to be involved in the cover-up, just by what we were told, that significant renovation has been done to the matrimonial bedroom. Then, if his wife died peacefully, what would be the cause for him to undergo such speedy renovation? So at least then, if he's not the one who is guilty of the killing, then he's involved in the cover-up. But let's leave the cover-up for now. It cannot be that a whole person died and nobody killed her. But let me say, one of the things is, Fitz-Bailey, you are barred. You are barred from coming to tell us that this is a suicide. But leave that aside. We'll get into that a bit later on. I just want to look at a few issues. The Juliet Holness issue in a court with the land grab and the title argument. It is no surprise. Obviously, the Prime Minister and his wife greedy. We can call the two of them a thief because them can't verify them asset. We know for the Prime Minister, and if the Prime Minister can't verify him, no matter how the wife wrap up, no matter how much the wife wrap up some of the drugs money where she land for her uncle at Canada. No matter the amount of drugs money Juliet Holness land for her drugs dealing uncle at Canada, she cannot verify the source of probably a lot of those money that she's putting in those property development. So we know, sir, we're not thief and we're not greedy and all that. So there's no surprise there. Nesta Morgan, neither it is not a surprise that Morris, who defected to the People's National Party, is saying that you're a despot and possibly a bully, because despots are normally bullies. Despot and dictators, Nesta Morgan, are normally bullies. It wouldn't be surprising because you work for Andrew Holness. You're Andrew Holness' voice and inchman, the one that comes out and tell the regular lies. So, therefore, it isn't surprising to hear that you're a dictator. And don't think that a lot of us wouldn't believe that you're a dictator, because you're flip-flopping in public when get asked a question. This is how dictators behave, because you can't tell the truth. You're always lying and you're always looking for favor. But it's an indictment on Nesta Morgan's leadership as the MP for that constituency, working with councillors who has to defect at a time when local government election is coming up. So it is really a sad indictment. It is really a sad indictment on your leadership in the constituency if at this point you cannot hold it together. But it is no surprise that you are a dictator, because you're in Andrew Holness government, you're Andrew Inchman, and we know how the role play go, because you're always out there caught telling lies. This is one of your regular practices. DPP, time has passed. Time has passed for a lot of things. Not just for the people them where you refuse to charge for whatever corruption they may be involved in. We're getting used to the time has passed scenario. It's statutory barred. Meaning if the law said you have 6 years to bring a case against Mark Barnett, then Paula Llewellyn make sure that 6 years run out. Paula Llewellyn, are you listening well? Paula Llewellyn, the Director of Public Prosecution, make sure she gives a ruling on the Mark Barnett case. Mark Barnett is the president of the National Water Commission Board, who was suspended last year based on the violation of a permit he was given. Based on a permission he was given to build a complex, and it was said he went beyond the permission he was given. However long the statute for that probe was, Paula Llewellyn make sure she gave a ruling after it has been barred by statute. Meaning you can't take him to court because legally the law says you should bring the case in 6 years. And Paula Llewellyn makes sure she gives that ruling after the statutory time to bring the claim to court. Meaning even if Mr. Barrett has committed great breaches or great offenses, you cannot take him to court because the time has passed legally by statute where the Director of Public Prosecution should have referred the case, should have referred Mr. Barnett for prosecution. Paula Llewellyn gave a ruling after the time has passed to bring prosecution. If this is not corruption, what would be her excuse on the ruling now after it has been statutory barred to bring corruption charges against Mark Barnett? So you see, everything Paula did here, and I'm gonna come to her later in the whole Silvera investigation. Everything Paula Llewellyn is doing is to make sure continue to protect the corruption we see building up there. But into Let me go back to the Silvera issue, because it's really, today was really a show of disgrace. The look on Silvera's face here, he knew he was being videoed. For me, the look on Silvera's face is like he really wants to pull his weapon out at that person. Hold on, wrong slide. At that person who turned the camera at him. In this picture where he's in the church, look at the video I'm going to play now, and look at that stare at the person who turned the camera at him from that angle.
Time and space. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise with us the God of grace.
Despite being a grieving situation, good night, Myrna, good night, long time to see, how are you doing? Despite being a grieving situation today, don't you think everything we saw was a show of disgrace, where the alleged murderer of the victim, the husband, who first told us she died peacefully in her sleep, next to him. Then after the postmortem, we understand he wasn't at home when she died. Arlene Forrest, how are you? How are you? Long time no see on the live. Good evening. I always see you in the comments. Good evening. The official narrative, she died peacefully in her sleep next to him. Nicola, how are you? Peacefully next to him. That was the official narrative. After the postmortem, we learned he was not at home. We also learned from time to time it's been rammed down our ears. Even in today's Gleaner article, it is still telling us there is no suspect. No suspect. If Fitzbailey, Monica, how are you? If Fitzbailey and Jolan Silvera hasn't cut a deal to say, let me attend the funeral and then you can proceed, what on earth is going on? Paula Llewellyn is the chief investigating authority in Jamaica. Paula Llewellyn is very silent on the issue. The police cannot name a suspect. The police cannot say that there was foul play at the Silvera's residence. Member for drop off me thing, you know. Member for drop off me thing, Myrna, come over quarrel. Chanel, how are you? How are you? Good evening and welcome. Dirka, good evening and welcome. No breaking and entry. No foul play. That haven't been said to us yet. Thank God, based on this postmortem report, they cannot now make up suicide. I hope later on, Silvera is not going to throw one of his sons under the bus. or I hope Silvera later on isn't gonna plead insanity. Stacy, good evening, good evening. But there's a massive issue here. Even if Silvera get charged and is taken to court, there is sufficient evidence should the ballistics results prove that the bullet in Mrs. Silvera comes from Mr. Silvera's gun. That would be enough material evidence to take a case to court against Julian Silvera and successfully gets a conviction. That alone is enough. But with the plethora of evidence that Silvera was allowed to destroy by renovating the bedroom, even from get-go, the whole concealment of the crime, even before the police and the undertaker get there. Is it that the undertakers really didn't know that they were on a crime scene? Or they got involved? Good evening, JC. I see your name has been written in the comment, but I never see when you jump in. Well, you're there. But if you are here, good evening, good evening. No break-in and entry or anything. Significant renovation. Okay, let's work with the second story. Let's say Julian Silvera wasn't at home. And when he came home, he found out that his wife was murdered. It couldn't be if his wife was murdered, shot multiple times. It couldn't be that Julian came home and didn't realize his wife was murdered. His wife couldn't be murdered in their bedroom while he's not there. And there's nothing to show any chase when he got home. So who Julian Silvera is covering up for? Who is Julian Silvera covering up for if he's not the one who is responsible for the killing of Melissa Silvera? If not Julian Silvera, who is responsible for the death of Melissa Silvera? Fitzbailey, this is not the first time. It is not the first time. There was no break-in and entry in Patrick Bailey house. Patrick Bailey, the prime minister attorney. I think 22 stabs, gunshot, no break-in and entry. And to date, Patrick Bailey having been investigated or arrested and charged for the crime of that young man who Patrick Bailey murdered in his house. Because it can't be that anybody of my generation, one must remember about Shirley Duppy. Anybody in the comment, if you remember about Shirley Duppy, type in the comment and let me know, please. Because there would have to be a level of Shirley Duppyism. There have to be a level of Shirley Duppyism. I go on in a Patrick Bailey house and in a the Silvera's house. Who remember the Shirley Duppy? Arlene says she remember Shirley Duppy. Who else there remember Shirley Duppy? Because there have to be a level of Shirley Duppyism a go on in a particularly them two murder. Do you think a young man from Tivoli Gardens, who his wife or baby mother is been murdered in his bedroom, would have given the chance today to attend his wife's funeral? Do you think a young man from Arnett Gardens or from Rima or Jungle would have been given this chance today after allegedly murdering his wife in their bedroom, would have been given this chance today to attend their funeral. Did Jamaica not have a public spectacle of disgrace today? Did we not have, Kenny's bro, how you doing? Did we not have a spectacle of disgrace in public today to see Julian Silvera? To see Julian Silvera like this. Today was a show of disgrace. To see what we saw on camera today, it was a show of disgrace, knowing that the whole law enforcement, Wendy, good evening, the whole law enforcement and Justice Department and the prosecutor, Maria, good evening, has gone in rather silence when all of them were queuing up. On the 11th of November, all of these high-profile, protecting the cover-up of a murder people were queuing up to give their condolences. A lot of them possibly attended the funeral today. A lot of them possibly attended the funeral today. And my God, all we saw today on camera was disgrace. To the point where even those who place themselves on the scene of a crime, even those who place themselves on the scene of a crime, even though we have not yet heard from Fitzbailey if he has spoken to Kamala Forbes, who placed herself on the scene of the crime, albeit after the crime was committed, but gave information in public that only a little bit of blood was coming from her nostril. So we thought it was aneurysm. Who are they? Who are we? Who are the we that Kamala Forbes is referring to? Who were the people that were going and coming from the property? Notorious B.I.G., good evening. Who are the people that were going and coming from the property in the early hours of the morning? Who were the house full of people, the over 30 people, or possible so that you describe? It can't be that Melissa Silvera was shot. We're not saying that. The pathologist is the one who told us that no, Melissa Silvera didn't die in her sleep peacefully as the suggestive narrative. Next to her husband, the official narrative. That's what we were given. That's what everybody worked with. Until the pathologist said, no, not so. She did not die in her sleep. She died violently. The pathologist said, no, not so. She did not die in her sleep. She died violently. If Mr. Silvera was from Tivoli Gardens, would Mr. Silvera be standing on the step of St. Andrew Parish Church today? Or would Mr. Silvera be in bars from mid-December? What country are we if we can't fight corruption in high society and we can't fight crime in high society? Time has passed. The Director of Public Prosecution gave a ruling after the time have passed to bring a prosecution with both Andrew and let me do a little bit of adjustment here, please. With both Andrew and Mr. Barnett, time has passed. Time has passed. That's what Paula Llewellyn regularly tells us. Time has passed. He was pretending to be crying. I don't know what on earth. Today was a disgraceful spectacle. Today was a disgraceful spectacle. Under no circumstances, a youth from the ghetto would be able to be at the funeral of his wife, who he allegedly murdered in their matrimonial bedroom. But not only murdered her in their matrimonial bedroom, immediately proceed on a string of cover-up with possibly member of the JCF involved in the cover-up. Friends of Silvera in the political class in the cover-up. Popular vlogger associated to the People's National Party involved in the cover-up. People going and coming from the property in the in SUV involved in the cover-up. Politicians closely associated to Silvera is very silent. Bobby Montague said Silvera, Mrs. Silvera died in her sleep. And that information was given to Bobby Montague by Julian Silvera, which boosted his initial story, where she died peacefully in her sleep next to him. Since the pathology report, a welter of silence, a wall of silence since the pathology report has met upon us. Okay, Fitzbailey, you questioned Julian Silvera twice. He is not a suspect. Are there any other line of inquiry? Are there any other line of inquiry that Fitzbailey is looking at in relation to Mrs. Silvera's killing? The Gleaner continue to push the narrative of death. No, Mrs. Silvera did not die. Mrs. Silvera was killed. There's a difference to death and killing. Death can be of natural causes, Gleaner. Death can be of natural causes. It can be of accident. It can be of old age. It can be of a period of an illness you did not survive. That's when you refer to things as death, Gleaner. But if you want to use the word death, say the killing dead of Mrs. Silvera. But you don't just push the narrative. The word dead, Miranda, good evening, good evening. The word dead supports the first narrative, the official, the initial narrative we were given. She died peacefully in her sleep next to me. Now we know that this is not so. Then all we have gone into is a wall of silence. We have gone into a wall of silence. Nothing from the investigators, nothing from the director of public prosecution. Mystic Vibes, good evening, good evening. Nothing from the director of public prosecution. All we have been getting is a continuous wall of silence to the point today where we see even those who place themselves on the scene of the crime. Even those who place themselves on the scene of the crime was at the funeral today. I think today will go down in our history. Today will go down in our history as one of the most disgraceful days for Jamaica, because to have gone in silence, after a woman has been murdered, and not just been murdered, we've been lied to. We've been lied to for weeks. For about 6 weeks, we were lied to. Perceptive Power, good evening and welcome. We were lied to for about 5 to 6 weeks that the woman died peacefully in her sleep. Now we know it is not so. We cannot get any update as to the investigation from Fitz Bailey, nothing from the director of public prosecution, nothing from the director of public prosecution, nothing from Fitz Bailey. Nobody is saying anything. Everybody has just gone into silence and is expecting us to work with the silence. How long will it take before Julian Silvera is being charged? I want to ask the women who were in the audience today at Melissa Silvera's funeral, at any point did you deem it necessary to at least raise your hand, disrupt the service, and at least say the word once, justice for Melissa Silvera? Flo M, good evening and welcome. Paula Facey, good evening and welcome. To the woman at Melissa Silvera's funeral today, did any of you deem it necessary? Beat and teach, wagwan, wagwan. Did any of you deem it necessary to raise your hand, disrupt the service? Verona, good evening. And at least use the word justice for Melissa. Or since the exposing of Fitz Bailey by Bishop Bailey? Has everybody gone in fear and silence because they don't want to expose? They don't want to expose the corruption within the political class and the fear. Julian Silvera is a former member of parliament in the Jamaican House of Representatives. Julian Silvera still have close political ties with both the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party. To date, no one has come out and give a clarifying statement of where they stand on the issue. When Dr. Campbell put out the statement, Dr. Campbell couldn't even use the word death, killing. Dr. Campbell couldn't even use the word killing. Good evening, Sandra Morgan. Good evening. Welcome, welcome. All of them, including the Gleaner, continue to push the narrative on us. Continue to push the narrative on us. Death. No, the woman was killed. It is killing. The woman was killed. Death support the official narrative. The word death support the official narrative. What we know since the post-mortem, then the language has changed to killing. At what point will Julian Silvera be arrested? Fitz Bailey. Paula Llewellyn, what is the state of the investigation? So far, since the pathology report, what has JCF, what evidence has JCF submitted to you for review in the Melissa Silvera investigation? Fitz Bailey said he is having an investigation into whether there was police corruption in the initial investigation at the Silvera's residence. At what point, Fitz Bailey, at what point we will get an update as to that investigation? At what point, Fitz Bailey, will we get an update to that investigation? Because we notice a whole lot of take with a fool, you know. Is either we mind Silvera business too much, or Silvera and Fitz Bailey take with a fool? Do you feel any compassion for Julian Silvera? Or are you having any second thought that he might not be the actual killer of his wife? Or are you having a second thought that Julian Silvera might not be the actual killer of his wife? Do you have any sympathy for Julian Silvera? Not even bird brain beat and teach. A fish brain then thing we have because every ton fish ton and bucky nose pan a pole in figure said. Ubuntu, good evening, good evening. First time seeing you. Do you have sympathy for Julian Silvera? Do you think it is possible that Julian Silvera may have not been the one? V, good evening, good evening. That may have not been the one that allegedly murdered his wife. If anyone has a view on the disgraceful spectacle, if anyone has a view and want to call in on the disgraceful spectacle we saw today, you are free to do so. I will put the number on the screen and you are free to do so if you wish. If you have an opinion and this disgrace we see to the country today, the disgrace to humanity, the blatant disrespect and disregard for the rule of law, to have tell us a blatant lie that Mrs. Silvera died peacefully in her sleep next to her husband. And since the story have changed because the pathologists refuse to follow the narrative. The pathologists refuse to follow the narrative of she died peacefully in her sleep. No statement from Fitzbailey Police Commissioner, Director of Public Prosecution, opposition leader, Prime Minister, friends of Mr. Silvera. To date, none of them, Mark Golden have been asked several times by several groups to disassociate yourself from Julian Silvera while the current situation is going on. And all everybody wants to do is to deafen us with a wall of silence. This is not the age of Gleaner Star, RGR, and JBC. Good evening and welcome to Global Television.
Good evening, producer Wayne.
You-
Good night, I should say, for you.
Good night, Debbie
Sure.
Jervis. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
I
I'm
really-
heartbroken.
I really appreciate your support, but I know you're calling on this painful and disgraceful issue that we saw today unfold in front of us on the world's camera.
Absolutely. You know, I saw that old crow. If you look in the comments, you see I call him old drunk crow. Walking and looking as if he has no care in the world. This man, I'm not even going to use the word alleged because the lady was murdered.
Precisely.
She was murdered in her home. And he's acting as if, oh, it's just, she died.
Don't you think
That
he was
big,
playing?
fat, ugly, nasty lie that came out, that he brought out in the beginning, talk about she died peacefully in her sleep next to him. And then just stop
Don't
lying.
you think,
Stop lying.
Debbie? Don't you think he was playing up to the camera all day today?
Oh, absolutely. And he couldn't help the ugly look on his face of nonchalant and non-caring. He couldn't even muster up tears. And if he did, he was squeezing his eyes together so hard for some water to come out.
Good evening,
Alligator
V.
tears.
The man was angry all day. You could
Very
see the
much so.
anger
Very
on
much
his
so.
face. He wanted to pull out his pistol, but just because of where he is, he couldn't have done it. Pamela Clark, good evening.
Nope. He couldn't do it. My heart bleeds for the children that are left. Because remember, how many years ago that the other young man, the baby, drowned? Drowned in the pool.
Exactly.
Baby that was supposed supposed to be under his watch.
Then
Oh my God.
if he covered up,
I'm surprised he didn't.
if he covered up the wife murder so blatantly, isn't it a possibility that that 2-year-old child who did not join, or even if the child really joined, what was the influence Silvera under to have been in supervision of a 2-year-old child and allow the child to get out of his sight and end up drowning?
Yeah, exactly. What distracted him in those critical moments before that poor baby died?
Exactly.
And was it an accidental drowning? I mean, it goes with the fact that you're a parent, you have children, you have a pool at your house. Number one, your children are going to be taught how to swim. I have seen month-old babies being taught how to swim, and they throw them in the darn pool and face first, and the children just know how to flip over and float on their back.
Exactly.
What caused this young boy, who was supposedly been taught how to swim?
Could it be a
And if he
situation?
wasn't taught how to swim,
Could it
why
be?
was he not being supervised?
Could it be a situation where the pathologist in that case was bought out?
There you have it. That's the $1 million question. That is the $1 million question, because that went by so quietly and so smoothly that, it gave him cojones to do it to their mother.
And note, the narrative of peaceful death continues until the pathologist refused to go along with it.
Yes, and I'm wanting to believe that pathologist that burst it out was probably hired by her family. And if he wasn't hired by her family, then he is a man of integrity, that he was not going to tarnish his reputation and cover up a murder.
Precisely so.
Plain and simple.
Because
Plain and simple.
Otherwise, it would have been another Patrick Bailey scenario where nobody did it. It happened really, but nobody did it.
The man stabbed himself? The man stabbed himself?
20 odd times.
Times, yeah. Okay.
And shot himself.
Not one time. Right. Not one time he stabbed himself, but 27 times. And then turned the gun on himself too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Miracle of miracles. Yeah, okay. These wicked, evil miscreants, all of them going to hell straight on a rocket with gasoline draws. Trust me when I tell you, karma is going to take a chunk out of their backside.
All of these people take us for fools. Because
they sure do.
To continuously tell us that Silvera is not a suspect, only a fool you could advance that argument to. This would happen nowhere else in the world.
Not on the planet. Nowhere else. Because in any other country, vicinity, the husband, the spouse, the significant other that live in the house with the victim,
they are the first line of suspect.
First. Always looked at first.
Oh yeah, they're always the first line of suspect.
When they go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, then they'll say, okay, well, we're going to rule out the husband, or we're going to rule out the boyfriend, or we're going to rule out the wife or the girlfriend or whatever, because of whatever evidence they've collected. No investigation was done. First of all, they killed a woman. He called, he had his buddies on speed dial. Call his buddies on speed dial. Say, no, come over here because we have a situation we need to clean up. Then they clean up and they come up with the story. Oh, she died peacefully in her sleep. Really? Really? So if she died peacefully in her sleep, what was the purpose of him doing a complete and total renovation of the bedroom? Don't come and tell me, say, oh, she died in here, so it's going to traumatize me, and I just want to get a fresh start and a clean start. And no, don't damn lie.
This is how much them take us to
Even the
school.
tile in the bedroom, you dig up the tile and replace the tile. You know why? Even if they mop up blood off the tile, spray some luminol.
Okay.
Spray some luminol.
Who is he covering up?
As a morning star.
Who is he covering up for then? Let's work with the story that he wasn't the one who killed his wife, because the second narrative is that he wasn't at home. So who is he covering up for?
Right. It certainly cannot be any of the other children that are left in the house. And another thing, where were the children when this happened? Where were the children when this happened?
Fitzbailey is yet still to answer that question, and if he has spoken to the children.
Yes, Mr. Pastor Stiff Bailey.
In America and in Britain, something like this happened, especially with a former member of parliament. You know, you're getting regular press and press conference update from the investigators. Maria, good evening.
Of course.
But ever since the narrative took a twist when the postmortem result came out, we have been faced with a wall of silence.
Like a steel door.
And
that wall went up like a steel door and everything was shut down. Nobody else saying anything. Nobody has no opinion of what could have, well, except your friend there, the mango lady. Love insinuate herself into things. Lord Jesus, poor thing. She thinks she's important.
She was on the scene within no time. She was at the funeral today. I mean, these people have no shame, you know. They have
whatsoever.
no shame because they don't even see.
None.
They don't even see necessary of this disassociating themselves from what is a potential murderer at the moment. Not just of any old person out there on the street, but of his wife.
A prominent person. A prominent person. You know, speculation going on that there was insurance on the baby, and she got her mom's insurance policy, and there was heavy insurance on her too. He got greedy and wanted more money and took her away.
Well, it is also said that since the death of Melissa's mother, Melissa has become filthy rich as well, because my understanding, she's an only child.
Yes. Oh, yes. And he didn't have 2 pennies to knock against each other.
So if Fitzbailey and Paula Llewellyn refuse to do their job, then Silvera is going to, after killing Melissa, walk away filthy rich.
Yes.
The question is, who then has Silvera paid to keep silent and to keep him out of jail?
Well, all of the people involved that should have been there to say, oh, wait, no, man, this can't go. You the husband. She was in the house with you. You said she died in her sleep next to you.
Tap up the screen and TikTok, please. Tap up the screen.
This can't work like that. No, but you see, all involved who should be running to a proper investigation and putting him in front of the judge and putting him in front of the police to say, look here, all of this, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 in this situation equals 5.
Debbie, the man is not a suspect.
the other one him called himself lawyer. Who was it? Champagne?
Champagne, who only got to the bar because he came from a rich family. That's his only claim to the bar.
How is he gonna say, "Oh, you can't consider him as the husband a suspect"? Excuse me. The husband, the boyfriend,
Debbie,
the wife, the girlfriend is always
based on
the
Fitz
first
Bailey's behavior,
suspect.
based on the behavior of the investigators, he's right to say that. It is painful and hurtful to hear it, but based on how the investigators are behaving, he is right to say that, because it is possible that the two-time Silvera is questioned by Fitz Bailey. He could just be questioned as a witness or a person of interest, which wouldn't have gone down the line of questioning, where if he's been questioned as a suspect.
Unfreaking believable. Just unbelievable.
So they're playing a whole lot of evidence, dodging, dancing, and dashing out. And then by the time,
throw under the rug, sweep under the rug, hide it behind the fridge, all kinds of mess. Wickedness, man, wickedness. Jesus, listen, my heart bleeds for these children. Bleed for these children. I wonder who is going to raise them. If they're going to leave them, if CPS is going to leave these children in the hands of a killer. And does he have insurance money on these children too, that they can have an accident, air quotes, accident anytime, and, you know, no questions asked again, and, you know, money come in his pocket again, depending on how depleted the father has from Melissa and their son.
Carol Thomas Cleveland. The problem is law enforcement is not helping us here. This wasn't a crime against Melissa Silvera. This was a crime against the state of Jamaica, against all of us.
Absolutely.
And those who we have employed.
And it shows only the ones that have a little bit of change will get any kind of, we'll get over. They'll get over. Oh, yeah. They won't have, you know, they'll pay off for any justice for anybody that any kind of crime that they commit happen to. And another reason why poor people will get killed won't get any justice, especially if they are killed at the hands of the police or security, police or soldier. But I tell you one thing, this protest that we're planning for next week, that's planned for next week, here in Florida, in Miami, is putting their behind on notice. I say, I can tell you, everybody have running belly. Everybody in Jamaica government have running belly right now.
They are worried. And we must continue to keep, particularly this Melissa Silvera thing in public. The reason is ex-politician is the alleged murderer here. And the security service and the prosecution service is protecting and covering up a murder. And we must not allow them to get away with this.
Cannot continue. It cannot continue.
If I did get to this happen, everybody door kick off and everybody house ransack.
Long time. All people that have no involvement don't even know what was going on or know the
get
people
thrown
that
up, get thrown up against the wall.
Thrown up against wall and gun barrel up under their neck, and you know, spread eagle and gun pointed at them head and neck and all this stuff. The poor people.
We must not allow them to get away with this.
Echelons of society get treated with kid gloves and cotton balls and do whatever they want. You know, they get away with it because they'll tell whomever, look here, this is how this going to go. This is how you have to do this. You understand? We pay you enough. We give you enough. The payola that we have you on is enough for you to agree with what I say.
Don't you see the hypocrite? Don't you see the hypocrites today consoling Silvera, and nobody raised their hand and say justice for Melissa?
Not a one. Not a one. I don't know if that woman that I see him next to in the church, Mama, if she have any conscience whatsoever.
She would tell him,
she gonna live
son,
with
for
that.
your children, for the sake of your children, do the darn right thing.
If she was any decent kind of person.
Even for the sake of your children, do the right thing.
No, but they can't do that. It's going to tarnish their supposedly squeaky clean reputation. And we all know not name one of them people in Jamaica government have any squeaky clean reputation. Not one. Not nary one. They're all a bunch of crooks, liars, and thieves.
It's about time we stop allowing these people to treat us like we're fools.
And the time has come, and everybody go and get washed out. There is a massive washout coming, and it's starting with the protest coming on Friday.
They have to start feeling the pressure. They have to start feeling the pressure because only the pressure would get them to start acting. And this is where we continue. This is where we continue to fail by not putting pressure on government, by not putting them to work. We only get involved in Jamaica from nomination day to election day, and after that, we forget about it and say, boy, what we are going to do, I just say we just have to live with it. No, you don't have to live with it. There's a lot of things that you can do.
This
that's what the thing said. No, it don't set so you can set it how you want it, or how it will develop and protect future generation, not how them want it. That's why Wholeness and him wife take over the entire country from us.
Yes, man. Running the country from their bedroom. What a bangarang. Jesus have mercy. But if they only knew. Me say when karma ready for them, just them two, them things them have running belly now. Just wait. Just wait. Everybody standing up and looking and taking notice. After Dr. Francis wrote this letter to them, the government, all of a sudden, everybody stand up and is looking like, wait a minute, whoa, hold on. And they sent out this idiot one, Arnaldo Terry Longtongue, we call him. And he come out with this epistle of buffoonery and nonsense. And the main thing up towards the letter, they did not open their mouth and type or say one word to address any of the issues in the letter. This fool came out and talked about Dr. Francis is using their logo, and he has no authority to use this logo. And I'm thinking, okay, we're talking about crime, we're talking about corruption, we're talking about essentially money laundering, money coming in the country from who knows where, and all you can see is he used a logo that he has been using for many, many years and is entitled to use, and it's a generic logo. It doesn't belong to anybody. Sir, please take several seats. Please take several seats and go back and read and try to figure out what we're trying to talk about. But they sent him out there as, the throw-out guy to come with his nonsense to try to distract. And then found themselves in hot water because they claiming that logo belongs to some global diaspora foundation and some youth foundation. And these two foundations that they're talking about that this logo belonged to, they've been accumulating money, getting donations and sending donations to Jamaica, but they are not registered anywhere.
And this is one of the main reasons. This is one of the main reasons why they're so worried.
Yes,
because then they would be.
I personally checked the business website for Florida, for New York, for Virginia, and for Maryland, and they are registered nowhere.
So then they know they're caught on the back foot in violation of U.S. regulations.
Yeah. and they're operating illegally. And even if, according to Will Rattigan, even if they go and register themselves now,
it
the
wouldn't
government is going to look back
no, it
and
wouldn't
see from
protect
when
them.
they've been.
It wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't
No, it
protect
wouldn't.
them for the past. It would
No,
only
it wasn't.
protect them from the date of registration going
From
forward.
the day they register going forward, but
Yeah.
not from the past. And they're going to check to see how long they've been operating and what they're doing.
Exactly.
So everybody running around now like a chicken without a head and coming up with all kinds of information or words to discredit the group that Dr. Francis penned the letter or signed his name to the letter, that the group of people sat down and came together.
But they must be
together.
aware. They must be aware that's not how the Department of Justice works. Once there is something to investigate, especially if there is a possibility of money laundering, then Department of Justice is going to investigate that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why they're running scared. That's why they're running scared and they're coming up with all these distractions. Because they know they're in the wrong. They figure they go do this kind of stuff in Jamaica, and they get away with it. They can come to America and do it too. Yeah, no, not so much. Not so much, sir.
Exactly.
Not so much.
Exactly.
But back to Melissa, oh my God. But you know, old people used to say, "Dopey nana power," because in the house, her Dopey didn't have any power.
Well,
Jolene Silvera would have gone mad. Would go mad.
There is a Shirley Duffy. There is a Shirley Duffy.
Shirley Duffy.
In no, but Patrick Bailey's house, Jolene Silvera's house. Shirley Duffy have to seriously be involved here. Because nobody killed these two people. They were murdered. In Mrs. Silvera's case, shot. In the young man in Bailey's house, shot and stabbed. But nobody don't murder them. So in a few with folklore, the only conclusion is Duppy involved in this.
Something. But I tell you what, like I said, karma is a bitch. And when she comes,
and it will come around.
With a vengeance. She come with a vengeance. Oh yes. I was looking at the comments and Wellness Warrior Sophia said Dr. Francis wrote the letter by himself. No, darling, it's a group. It's a group effort on the part of this true Jamaican diaspora group. They got together and they coordinated and conglomerated the letter, constructed the letter together, and Dr. Francis signed his name to the letter that everybody in the group contributed to. So he didn't write it by himself. It's a group effort. It's a group effort. He signed the letter. He signed the letter on behalf of the group and on behalf of all of us Jamaicans in the diaspora. That's sick and tired of the wickedness, the corruption, the crookedness that Colmes and his band of merry men and women.
Well, only the people who are interested in protecting Andrew's hypocrisy would really have problem with this letter. And those people in the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council, if they're doing things surreptitiously, then they're the ones who would be bothered about that. But otherwise, us in the diaspora, if you're representing us, we want to know when you collect money and you send it over to the Jamaican government, what is done with that money and how much is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I tend to believe that because so many of these politicians out there have non-profit foundations that there essentially really is no accountability of how the money come in, who send the money in, and how the money go out.
But
they can run money through their organizations like water.
you see those
So
non-profitable organization, sometime if you check the date when those organization was registered, it's just about at the time when they enter politics.
yes,
Because
very much so.
they know they are preparing themselves with those organizations to swindle and wash money through, because they know that there's little accountability you would have to provide to
Very little.
companies' house for that.
Very little accountability. Very little. And they take that and they run with it.
Oh yeah.
Let's say them have some gigantic
Lily
industrial
Foster,
size
good
washing machines. Some gigantic and industrial size washing machines in their laundromat.
Oh yeah.
That, yeah. Yes, sir.
They're a bunch of crooks.
Well, sir, they are sure as heck. There's no two ways about that. Or did not. There's no two ways about that. The biggest crooks on the planet.
Oh, for sure.
They're the crooks. And I want to say to people in Montego Bay that tar and feather that old two-car garage nose conjure. I was so proud of them. Oh my goodness, I was so proud of them. Too bad all of the people didn't do that, because he went somewhere else and everybody hugged him. Oh my good up, Prime Minister. And I'm sitting here looking at these videos. I'm going, does this man even know you? Does he know you?
That
All
is
he
something
knows
that
is
that we
about
need
you.
to use torment him into the next election.
Oh yes, and he was standing up there with his back hunched, like he was trying to ignore the people's cries, and his big old Dumbo ears could not let him not hear the people and what they were saying.
Exactly.
He could not respond because he was trying to pretend he didn't hear them.
And he was terrible. He was terribly embarrassed as well, because they were expecting a euphoric support.
Yes. Oh my good up Prime Minister. Oh, Mr. Andrew, Master Andrew, yes, my good up Prime Minister. You're doing a wonderful job. Like hell he is.
The crook. Our Prime Minister is a crook.
I can't wait. I can't wait for all the line of silver bangles waiting on all of them. Waiting on all of them. And if Mark Golden get in and think he's gonna go in and sit on his big puss and do the same thing that Contra doing, oh, he's in for a rude awakening. We're
going to put Mark Golden to work from day one should he gain that office. He will be put to work from day one.
He is our employee, not the other way around. We are not his employees. He is our employee. We put him in the job. We hired him. And that's making work.
That's where I want Jamaicans to get it and understand politics from. You, the people, are the government. These crooks are your paid administrators to run your government. It's literally how it works. But Jamaicans has just left it for them to do whatever they want with your country and your money.
Whatever they want. Yes.
It is woeful.
Exactly.
Our country is in a woeful state, and today will go down as one of the most disgraceful days in our history.
Oh my gosh. It's just unbelievable.
It will.
Unbelievable. Talk about rock stone where his heart is supposed to be. Good night. Boy, may I tell him, I said, it's the children that are left are the ones that I'm worried about.
Honestly.
They are gonna need some massive
because the mother is dead, the paternal grandmother, the maternal grandmother is dead, and now you don't know where Silvera learned this behavior from. So you have to be worried about his children, because if that woman standing behind him today is his mother, I wouldn't want to feel the weight of her heart, if there is one.
Yep, I'm telling you.
You know, so
it's just unbelievable. Those poor children. Those poor children.
It is.
But I just hope and pray extended family stay. When I tell you press gas on this to get this no good junker in jail, in a prison.
Oh yes.
For the rest of his days. And her family raised those children.
We are waiting to see the handcuff on Julian Silvera. Because
oh my gosh, him and so many others.
Now that his wife is buried and he has attended the funeral, then Fitzbailey should now arrest Julian or give us a public statement. They can't just expect it to just leave it just like that and just let it.
Because she buried. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that shouldn't happen.
No, can't happen.
That shouldn't happen.
Well, Sir Wayne, it has been a pleasure.
Yes, and thank you very much for your continuous support. I really, really appreciate it.
As always. You know, I'm always in the comment section beating.
Oh yeah. Oh
yes. Not to take your title, but not to take your title, beat and teach, but I am always in there beating and teaching.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Well, you have a wonderful night, Global family in the comment section. Can y'all press the like button, please? Just mash up the like button, man. Mash up the like button.
Yes,
get
because
it to
100%. Over here, they're not hitting the like button at all. There's only how much people like the live. 70 people.
71.
Yeah, like up the live on YouTube, please. And TikTok, can you take us to at least 10,000 likes, please? We're at 8,800 at the moment. Give us some more likes over TikTok and take us up to 10,000 likes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your call, Debbie, and thanks for all your support.
You are welcome. You are welcome any and every time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Good night, globalists.
Okay, then. Yes, that's Debbie's view on the Silvera issue and the general corruption from our politicians in Jamaica. Do you have a view on straight-faced, dry-eyed Silvera? Do you have a view on the angered look on Silvera's face this evening? Do you have a view on an inept director of public prosecution who at no time can deliver justice to us in the capacity that we have employed her to deliver justice? Director, time has passed. Director, not enough evidence. Director, I have evidence. I have evidence to show that Nzinga ripped all her hair out. When is Paula Llewellyn as Director of Public Prosecution, the People's Prosecutor, is going to prosecute criminality and corruption on behalf of the people, and rather not protecting politicians and those in power, positions of power, such as Time has passed to charge Andrew Holness for corruption during his tenure at Ministry of Education. Time has passed to charge Mark Barnett for his violation of the permit when erecting his complex. But in the case of Nzinga King, from a poor background, good evening, Rachel Brown, good evening. Good evening, Sharnet Walker, good evening. In the case of Nzinga King, from a poor background, good evening, V. Paula Llewellyn, good evening, Lilith Foster. Paula Llewellyn. In the case of Nzinga Singh, Paula Llewellyn could find a witness, an eyewitness across the cell from Nzinga Singh to say they've seen Nzinga ripping out her hair ripping out her locks one after the other. But nobody took Nzinga King to hospital. No medical examination was done to see whether Nzinga King has ripped her hair out violently, because it couldn't be that Nzinga King would have ripped her hair out without leaving any medical evidence that her hair was ripped out rather than cut, as Nzinga alleged. Rich justice, poor justice, white justice, black justice, uptown justice, downtown justice is how the rule of law apply in Jamaica. Not fair and square to all, but based on your color, your class, your association, and your financial beholdings. This is where we ended tonight on the people's point of view. If anyone has a view, they can call in, but otherwise, this is where we bring it to a close this evening. I want to say to those on Twitch, on the X, on TikTok, you over there, on YouTube, and on Facebook, thank you all very much for being here this evening. We really appreciate your support. And under no circumstances, we are going to allow the death of Melissa Silvera, the killing of Melissa Silvera, to go unnoticed. Even if the justice system will have you think that it is going to go unnoticed and unpunished, we will forever be speaking about the killing of Melissa Silvera here. Today was a spectacle of disgrace in our country, where the alleged killer of his wife visited her funeral. Not only that, but even witnessed on the scene of the crime not long after the murder was at the funeral. Have they been questioned? Is there a suspect? Who killed Melissa Silvera? And when will Julian Silvera be arrested? This is where we end tonight. Novlet Blake, good evening. This is where we end tonight. Thank you for joining us on the People's Point of View. This evening is Friday evening. We will not be broadcasting tomorrow, only if there's a breaking news that Julian Silvera has been arrested. That's the only circumstances on which we would come on for a broadcast tomorrow. But otherwise, we will be back here for the People's Point of View on Sunday evening at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your support, and good night. If you're here for the first time and you have not subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell. So when we put out a broadcast, you will always get the notification. And please remember to like and share and keep the comments going in the after broadcast. Thank you very much, and we will see you back here on Sunday night.